Okay, hey, I'm going to realize another promise to you, people primates, the Homo Communia, and do my first course of the last year, right? The monthly course, to try to approach more of an ecocentric worldview. So, I didn't promise to wear a shirt for this one, right? I'm wearing my pajamas. I don't know if I've got anything in my teeth. I'll try not to pass gas. I've got some uh, cherry gelatin to eat after this. So, with no students, I'll try to make it short so I can eat my cherry gelatin so I don't waste too much of my time on the people primates, even though this is the right thing to do if you love the concept of life, which we know nothing else about except what we can find here. And if you like and love this planet, which is an extreme form of mental illness if you don't, but it seems like you don't. So, you know, I thought of something a few weeks ago that would be a very easy way to reduce the heat in the atmosphere very quickly using technology that is beyond our that is not beyond, it is actually within our capacity as a species right now, and that with collaborations, although we don't see it globally right now, and it could go to hell, this collaboration with current affairs, but with collaborations could be done within a year to significantly reduce temperature in the atmosphere within a year, significantly. And I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it because what if it amounts to something and you guys actually succeed at it? It would be deadly to this planet, because saving yourselves without ecocentric worldviews as a majority is just the worst service I could ever do to this planet that I love. So whether there's even a remote chance and I could win a Nobel Prize, whatever, I don't care. Like, I'm ecocentric. I have to think of the planet. If there's a chance you guys would try this out of desperation, which you already have, it would just keep you guys here longer, and then more likely keep behaving the same way because of the wrong worldviews, and it would also make you just reverse the evolution of life on this planet to even further in the past by the time your time is done. And because it's partly because of who you are as a species that won't acknowledge a lot of things I've been talking about, but also it is the fact that if I give you this solution, it doesn't teach you more about the planet. That means it's a quick solution if you were working on other things at the same time, which you are not, right? And I've talked about this before. Not only did COP26 prove to be another scam, but everything is still increasing instead of decreasing that you promised as millionaires, leaders, blah, 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 right? As people who sign things whose signatures we all know now are worthless. So I'm not going to say this. I mean, I could write it down somewhere, but I'm afraid to even write it down, just in case nobody thought about this before, because you guys don't think in the same paradigms, right? You think in your limited view of yourselves on this planet, and I think in a more scientific way. And this, for me, is a very easy way to get rid of heat in the atmosphere, but it's also a recipe for disaster for a species that doesn't understand its planet enough. Because if you apply this without understanding more about your planet, plus without even being on the right road to changing yourselves, your thinking, and therefore your behaviors, it's not something I even want to write down anywhere. So I just want to say that HSD is something that I'm assuming is affecting you at 99.7% as a species. And again, the 0.3 is speculative. I do not have any evidence that of anybody that is in this 0.3, although you want to believe you are in it. You are not. And if you were and you knew of me, you would have accepted the challenge to be evaluated to see if you are. I want to say that if we had an ecocentric worldview, it would help us realize that we have to debudget. We have to get the money out of funding military and put it instead into the things I'm telling you that you should have already been doing if you wanted me to even mention this wild idea, And I say wild is just because I didn't spend a lot of time working on it, and I'm not going to, because it's a bad idea to give it to you just in case it is, a likelihood to succeed. So if I had seen you guys, or if I see any signs that with this Ukraine and Russia thing, that there'll be a new world government, in the sense that some people think that's a bad word, by the way. World government, they think somehow they won't be able to go drink beer at the bar or something if I say something like that. It's ridiculous. So they won't be able to get the latest big truck, although it's not a good idea to do that. But anyways, so world government would be, for me, the way I'm using it is to replace the UN, which is pretty useless. What I could do is I could this idea, because so many of my views are my crappy songs that I sing. It's a huge percentage of my videos, partly because I haven't finished the playlists of organizing, let's say, critical thinking and democracy series, which critical thinking is pretty long, for example. So, if people, look at a few, I don't know, I haven't kept track of the numbers changing there, and they don't realize there's more to look at. But still, it's majoritively the songs. So if I put that idea in there, I wonder if you guys will look for it. That'd be an interesting experiment. How desperate you would be at some point. And I would say, okay, there's now 100 songs. One of them has that idea. I have to find a way to mix and match them so that you might, be good enough with your research to know that it's probably not one from a few years ago if I thought about it a couple of weeks ago. So, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to dedicate a song that I still want to practice. I put one of the rehearsals on Facebook and dedicate it to the president of Ukraine. And also I will dedicate it to Mélanie Joly. I'd like to actually assess the two of them a little bit more before I decide to dedicate this song to them. And in part, it is to see how they are possibly gonna, when this is over, I threw a date out there of March 16th on Facebook to see, if Putin would do this staying alive video walk I saw one time, where somebody was playing the song Staying Alive when he does this super long walk in the big mansion. And he does look like he's a little bit dancing when he's walking. And I put the date of March 16th. Hey, professor of socio-cybernetics doesn't mean I can tell you exact dates of exact events or things like that. It's all probabilities. But anyways, let's say after March 16th, Mélanie Joly and the president of Ukraine, which I have to try to practice how to say soon so I can respect him that way by saying his name, is if I see that they are who they seem to be in these times, I would dedicate that song to them. It would motivate me to, finish practicing it and do a decent version of it. But anyway, but again, I'm not Michael Bublé. Don't say Michael Bublé. It's Michael Bublé. And so anyways, I'll start the course now. And this learnerless course, which tells me this is you as a species, right? Are you worth saving if you won't even show up for your own meetings, for your own teachings, for your own metapsychology enlightenment? Metapsychology is to know our own thinking and feelings and our own selves. By the way, in my song that I've re-put in the last 60 years, I just want to clarify this, is when I say we lost the concept of the Superman. If you read about this concept more, you'll see that what I mean is not related to an Aryan race or something as ridiculous as this. It's related more to the concept of pursuing self-actualization and even the concept of humanism. It's the idea to strive to be better than we are. So the idea of the Superman, not Superman character, the Superman. let's put it like that. And it's hard to translate those things, by the way, in English. Those concepts, even if you read the English versions of it, I think it's Nietzsche. You'll see that there's different interpretations of it, but it's more like striving to be the best we can be and never stopping this, and eventually the people that pursue these types of personal, professional, self-actualizing, uncompromising right that they have to strive. And I don't mean business, not related to life coaching, more related to life skills coaching, which I've now used Humanix training because life skills is something people misunderstand now. It's more related to that, because when somebody exceeds at this much more than others, they become an inspiration that this is what is a good example of human potential. And so, in looking at this hero of president and others in Ukraine, and Mélanie Joly, and she's not even near the end of her work. What I have to be careful is when I dedicate the song to them, because I'm a single man, also in Canada, and also bilingual. I don't know if she's single. I haven't looked it up. But I have to maybe try to put the name of the president of Ukraine first when I dedicate the song, and not Mélanie Joly first, because she's kind of Jolie, which is spelled differently. And anyways, I digress. You know that word? Okay, so if we could move away from ego and all the tribe versus tribe mentality that not having an ecocentric worldview leaves us in for so long still, is we would actually be able to easily put the funding of military, but as we can see, we're still so confused. There's still the majority of this species that still think military deterrence is not a form of extreme mental illness, right? So it would have to be a new type of United Nations where the main mission statement is to have all countries, whether, all of them should automatically have membership, because, that's what an ecocentric worldview leads us to. And eventually none of them exist. We're just one united entity that strives to further evolve, right? And maybe our brains would then become what we're supposed to have become. That's a theory I have, or an hypothesis, that our brains were meant to be the global brain, the collective unconscious, the overmind of our planet. By the way, no, I'm not going to say it yet. So if we can move away from ego and patriotism and ethnocentrism and even anthropocentrism, then we would realize we should be funding the sciences more, because the evidence shows, we should be working on a lot of things. That is not, again, drilling and raping the earth for minerals for crappy technology. Most of it would actually be the social sciences. Like, most of it would be, again, fighting and acknowledging the seriousness of HSD, Humanix training, so as to develop a human operating system. That, for me, the way I train is very much linked to accountability as well. It would be more addressing our origins as a species, which still has a huge impact on how we behave all around the world. And of course, it would be ecocentric worldviews and the sciences related to Earth system sciences, but also just psychology and counseling, it should be that everybody takes training as a counselor, counseling skills, and does, a year of volunteer part-time to be a counselor for others, because trauma is going to get worse before it or may not get better. So not forcing your citizens while you're still individual countries because you suffer from mental illness. You don't understand the unity of our planet, the interconnectedness. Although you love documentaries that say it, you act in the opposite still as a species, as a majority, as a collective. Is you have to kind of be healing yourself. You have to not have your citizens be soldiers for a year, or or be drafted for other things that are part of the problem. You should have everybody spend a year every 10 years, really, so they update these skills, counseling skills, so you can relate with each other with sentience and sapience and start listening better. And not make it about you, because a good counselor should have already been able to overcome their triggers and notice them and even remove them and say, oh man, there's too many triggers. I have to pass you on to another counselor. And that's a way. And again, evaluate yourselves, because somebody doing this could be praised later. Wow, it's right that you were, it's the right decision. It was tough on your client that might have liked you, but it's also good role modeling for your client when it was well explained why your triggers meant that you would not be the best counselor, volunteer counselor in this thing that we all should do if we're going to become better people. I'm going to read, I haven't found where I wrote down, I don't know if I have it with me, the specific writings that I had wanted people to read before we meet as a group every month. And I still see 0 here, and it's okay because I didn't say the time I'd be doing this. It was just today. And I just gave up, I just gave up on you as a species. I mean, the evidence is there, right? I still want to do this because I have a conscience, and I have a choice with what legacy I leave as an individual isolate on this planet, with the skill sets and the variety of intelligence that I have, and the goals that I've set for myself to be proud of, whether I live another year or 10 years or another 40 years, I don't know. So I'm going to read just part of a letter that I wrote when I fired my university faculty, who most of them call themselves experts in sustainability. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll finish up with maybe some touching stuff. No, let's do the touching stuff right away. This morning I was up before 7, still crying with watching videos of what's happening in Ukraine. Still trying to make sure the feelings don't interfere with my critical thinking skills. Just knowing, okay, the news is presenting this. I can see their feelings, but they're also using the right words when they're reporting. Like one latest one, I was surprised that they were very careful with their words, because things they were saying were not verified. They were just high likelihoods that this is who did this and this is what happened. But there's still strategies in war that we may or may, and they're not strategies in a way to admire. They're just stupidities, really, is what they are. So there's stupidities we don't know, and they're hard to kind of evaluate, and they might be investigated within the next month or over the next few years to see what was true or not. So, but there is a generalized acceptance of who the good guys and the bad guys are, although among the bad guys are a lot of the same types of victims. They came from a culture that was under different pressures, right? And but I mean, war, there's never any winners in war. There's no winners in Monopoly. Who finishes Monopoly and they're all the same kind of friends at the end? Most of the time it's not like that. So I'm going to read from this, and I'm going to stop when I feel like it. If somebody is on and gives me a question, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to find my mouse, and I'm not even hungry, but I'm looking at my cherry gelatin, and I'm thinking I wouldn't be wasting my time. Look at the title, by the way. I wouldn't be wasting my time. This mouse has fallen many times and it's still working. I wouldn't be wasting my time as much maybe eating this cherry gelatin as trying to bring free education about, programming your brain in more pro-life types of ways. So I'm just going to find that document now, which won't take me long. And then I'm going to just double check that the YouTube is still recording. And I believe I have checked this in the past, and it was. Although, since my computer was attacked, and I put screenshots from where I am now on my Facebook about that, is I realized that when I do scans with my computer's software now to check for viruses, is I get a lot of weird inconsistent things. Like one time it'll say there's 17,000 files, and the other time it'll say there's 19,000 files. And, I haven't done anything, it's never the same really if you do it like even 15 minutes later, especially if you've been on the internet. But to have big differences like that, and also the phones were broken for a while, and now they're reestablished, the phones here. But I realized calling just one person, and they hung up before me, and then I call them back and I say, "Can you hang up before me again?" And it doesn't look like the line ends, like somebody else is on the line. Hey, this could mean nothing. I'm not saying anything related to what that means, but and there's a third thing as well. What's the third thing? Oh yeah, I'm sending some emails with my YouTube links that are kind of time sensitive and to important people. And, it could be this is also a time where these, their servers are overrun, but, it's still not the exact message I'm getting. So it's kind of a little bit weird. But anyways, I'm not important. I know I'm not important to the majority of the people primates. So I don't see the world circling around me, and I don't see these things as signs of conspiracies or spying or things like that. I'm just saying, I just notice patterns, and really I don't mind anymore. Whatever you guys decide. It's the last year I'm doing this, and I'm not even going to try to. Sometimes if I don't say everything in the videos, I'm just going to maybe do what I've never done before, is make one of my PDFs a link that you can get online and just figure it out yourselves. I'm getting pretty old here, folks, and I'm not saying that I'm in worse mental or physical shape for my age, but the kind of projects that I need to help you with, they last a long time and they require support. So here's the emotional thing. When I was crying this morning watching these videos, I'm mostly touched by the touching human behaviors, the signs of humanity when it comes to people helping other strangers in difficult times. And it also makes me very sad because people that have known me for years or that are related to me are actually complicating my life for no reason other than I'm just different than them, and they don't have patience with me, and they think there's something wrong with me when I have the evidence to prove there's something wrong with them. So it makes me sad to see that there is humanity, but it requires us being at war with each other to make it come out, and then be like this with strangers where I could see that the person is not doing it to make them feel better, is they're doing it because altruism is telling them it's the right thing to do. But altruism seems to come out in your species only when situations like this arise. And that's a very bad sign, people. And I'm not saying don't reignite your altruism by continuing this crap, like wars like this. Don't do this. I'm saying you have to ask yourselves why, even within families, I hardly observe, including my own, but not just my own, I hardly observe, especially a family that is not going through a particularly harder time than usual, either a few members or one member. And even if it's not like the most, I want to say favorite, but or the most beloved, or the most, let's say, a central figure in a family, even if it's not them, and even if it is them, it has to be one horrible thing for the altruism to come up a little bit in families. So it has to be now at the level of wars and the footage we keep seeing on TV to re-trigger this altruism inside of you. And that's just towards a few other of your own species. I still haven't seen people rescue animals or talk about the ecological devastation. And I'm still, not expecting you guys to take Earth Day, which should be every day, serious for even one day this year. I think you're still going to skip it this year, and it seems most years are skipped, even though somebody says, no, I was at a, this big celebration we have at Earth Day, and you can see these videos on YouTube. That's a tiny portion of you, and that's one day of the year. So again, does that make you think that you have an ecocentric worldview? I don't think so. So it looks like it's still recording. And sometimes my bitterness like this, it's actually therapy for me, because there's I have no peers to talk to. So thank you. Thank you for letting me record this and not showing up for it. Okay, so I told the lady this, this is going to escalate in the future. And I said, you sure you want me to use names? I said, you are the head of this program right now. And it wasn't her at the beginning, but it changed to her. And I said, don't you want me to put the person that is the head of the faculty of management, which this was under? And most of these teachers were rec and tourism teachers. They had no really systems thinking background. I think one of their, what's it called? Visiting scholars did once. And I'll mention him in this letter, I believe. And, but most of them, had, the type of science you would know if you're like taking your students in the woods locally, or if you come from another region, you'd know some, and the names of the trees or some of the bugs or whatever. And if you do, it's often because you grew up in the forest, or your dad was like this, or your uncle was like this, or your aunt, whatever it is. And it's not necessarily because they had science or zoology or biology related training or diplomas. They were, well, I got to say this, they were often elites in academia in programs that required, let's say, the least creative intelligence, let's say. Man, you can challenge me on this first time I say this, but I think this might actually be measurable if you want, compared to people that have science degrees. Okay, so I'm sorry to say her name. And it was weird that this lady, she'd give me hugs sometimes. And, I have, as I said, counselor skills. And she would share things with me that a woman whose biological clock is ticking was going through. And I could tell that it was impairing her judgment, like it was with other friends I had for a long time who asked me advice about things. And I say, well, this is going to happen. And they can't stop themselves. And they still happen. And then the rest of their lives turns out the way that our discussion said it would, and they couldn't stop themselves, and it's pretty sad. But anyways, so Aggie Wayhill, chair of MA Sustainable Leisure Management, Vancouver Island University in the Nanaimo branch. I dedicate this letter to the memory of two very noteworthy free thinkers who passed away during the course of my struggles within this program. Lynn Margulis. I heard I was mispronouncing it the other day, and I haven't memorized how to say it. And Warren Allen Smith. I have a picture with Warren Allen Smith when he visited Ottawa Humanists in a meeting where I was, and I won his book, and he signed it for me with a few other things, like a Bertrand Russell drawing that he signed that he had given him personally, and he knew Isaac Asimov and Janet personally as well, because he lived not too far from where they lived as well, in New York. And I think I actually got the email of Janet Asimov from him, I think, maybe. And or I mentioned him to Janet, and that gave her a chance to kind of pick up on my email and interact with me a little bit. So, and then I write my name, right, Martin, and then I say lifestyle entrepreneur, independent scientist, ecocentric humanist. Remember, this was written at the date I'll tell you. Humanism is no longer a valid ideology among your species suffering from HSD. A free thinker. Free thinker, by the way, is something that's easy for me to prove, and I get shunned and victimized in any culture of the world that I go to because of that. Being a free thinker is not something that has its rewards. And then I write Humanix Academy, a philanthropic pursuit, and then I write my North American industry code system number. I don't know if that's what that means, NAICS. And the address. And this was March 2nd, 2017. So we are entering the 5 years ago. Dear Dr. Wayhill. And then I put under, not regular brackets, but the nicer one, this nicer one. This letter is also intended for all other members of the MSlim, right? Master of Arts in Sustainable Leisure Management faculty. And what happened with that is I had to put pressure, like I didn't hear back from her. I had to get her to confirm, even though I had a signature from registered mail where I found out later, and I got reimbursed by Canada Post, that the registered mail was just left in a bag outside the mailroom when it's closed. And for them, that's like me paying for the signature. That's good enough for them. What the hell? So I did get a refund. And that's just many things that Canada Post was doing wrong and made me feel victimized with. So, you know, I did try to support them, independent contractors, to get benefits, but, you know, benefits doesn't improve the quality of what you get sometimes, right? When people always want for more, they, you know, even teachers, you can really rarely hear them reference that the reasons are the children matter, you know, when they're fighting for things. They're just fighting to get more money to be part of a broken system a lot of time, I'm sorry to say. So this letter was not shared, like I asked, with the others in the faculty. And some of them months or years later is I still put a bit of pressure on them to read it. And I'm proud of this letter, and it took me a long time, and it was pretty well written for a guy whose first language is French. And thank you to my tutor also, who worked on it with me for a long time. And, you know, I got into student debt to do this disappointing program. And the province of British Columbia is still trying to, if I succeed to do my taxes, they're going to try to get money from me still, I believe. I haven't gotten a confirmation that they're not going to stop doing that, even though the government of Canada has stopped my student loan repayment. They brought it down to zero. British Columbia didn't. And this happened in British Columbia. And you'll see in another course on this that I'll read a letter that I wrote to the province of British Columbia Advanced Education, I believe, a department of a lady that was in charge of curriculum from, I think, K-5, where I wanted to talk about my research I was planning to do. Okay, so I'm telling you the story of this here, and I tried to find court papers for this, and it's very hard when you're poor and you're struggling and nobody cares. So I'm doing this online now, so you know, transparency is going to get much more in your face now, people, as the world is crumbling around you, because I love this planet. Dear Dr. Wayhill, and this, you know, after this, it's like, for me and other things, is using the word doctor is a bad word. I don't mind giving them that title. And don't say it with my last name. I'm the doctor of Humanix. But for me, doctor there's a lot of people with PhDs there, and even medical doctors is, at this point, a majority are people that I wouldn't let them babysit my dog if I had a dog. So it's pretty, even if they have dogs, and my dog gets along with their dogs, no. And you can't drive my dog because I've seen you driving, and no, sorry. Doctor doesn't mean anything anymore to me. It's not something to admire anymore, even if you got more than one PhD or MDs. The purpose of this letter is to summarize my experiences in the Master of Arts in Sustainable Leisure Management program, and to seek a resolution for all of my efforts. In particular, I hope to provide persuasive arguments regarding why I should be considered as having completed sufficient research, practical work, and conducted enough individual personal effort toward creating positive changes in the communities in which I have been involved, in order to be granted the MSlim degree. As partial fulfillment of this degree, It would be my honor to have the opportunity to present in a suitable form the innovative life challenges I have undertaken and the solutions I have generated. Now, by the way, I wrote this 5 years ago, and they gave me the Master of Arts graduate diploma. Officially, the date is July 2018, I believe. But even before this is I was already, this letter was already written in my head, and I had to take the time to do a good job doing it. So it was before that 5 years ago that the evidence was there that I was wasting my time there, and you'll see why in this letter. As I was reading just this first page, I decided that I'm going to do a mid-month reading of these things, and names are going to be mentioned and stories are going to be done about my experiences. And since then, by the way, international ratings of Vancouver Island University have been going down, and it's sad. And by the way, getting accurate ratings for universities is almost impossible. You'll say, "Oh yeah, no, I found this place for that." Yeah, find more places. You'll see that they're so inconsistent, and there's so many ads a lot of time that the world of academia, I don't think, allows for it, for objective, independent, valid, reliable research to be done on them. So yes, it's not going to surprise you, and I'm not just talking about that university. It's not going to surprise you that I did this letter, but talking about this letter with other people who went to master's or PhD levels, you're going to see they had similar experience. They just didn't have the courage or the support, and I had no supports to actually write a letter like this. They just completed, and they became part of the problem the majority of the time. Okay, so I began writing for Island University in general, and in the Muslim program in particular. I am confident that I can provide a clearer picture of my experiences. As you recall, I decided to not continue working towards completion of the program in the late summer of 2015. Here, I intend to provide more details regarding the reasons for that decision. Perhaps I can explain my disenchantment using the following 4 interrelated themes. 1, a growing divide between the paradigms guiding the university in general, my faculty in particular, and myself. So divide in paradigms between us 3. 2, a mounting skepticism on my part regarding the intent of academia, government, and so-called green political organizations. 3, my diminishing regard for some scholars who have achieved graduate and postgraduate accreditation, yet have been spurred not to activism so much as elitism. And finally, 4, my questioning of the practical value of a graduate degree as opposed to contributing my time and efforts toward positive, noteworthy, real-world changes, which doesn't give you a big office if you if you decide that, by the way. In 2011, as a new graduate student in your department, I was eager to find like-minded people and role models with whom I could identify. As time went by, I became disappointed as it grew increasingly apparent to me that the official stance on sustainability within the faculty was at odds with my own understanding of the concept. As my own perspective evolved through my studies, but particularly through my own intellectual progression outside of the program, I became, when I say this, because I read a lot about, let's say Gaia theory or the concept of system science, where, I'm not in this program to help make tourism appear to have a smaller footprint on the environment, right? I'm into sustainability is science driven. It's not arts driven. That's your hint right there. And it's also as much, if not more, related to the Earth system sciences than the social or economic related sciences, and certainly not that much related to rec and tourism. And that doesn't mean I didn't want to give these teachers a chance, because I knew a few of them from choosing a few courses before that related to people that were going to be associated with this program. So I knew kind of where they were going, what their background was, and what they could or could not understand. So I was open to kind of be a guy that brought in a more scientific mindset into the program. But I don't think they ever saw that. I think they saw, okay, Martin has mostly psychology courses, and this other member in the first cohort has this, and these are the strengths. I don't think they ever saw that, outside of my bachelor's degree, I could learn and advance at other things independently, right? That was a red flag right away. I became very aware that when the faculty spoke about sustainability, this is very important, they were in fact talking about sustainable methods, practices, or behaviors embedded in an exclusively human context. These sustainable approaches to various human behaviors are inherently anthropocentric and therefore in violation of the true nature of sustainability, which must relate to whole systems. True sustainability is ecocentric and therefore non-species specific. And then I quote Aldo Leopold, a San County Almanac, Richard Routley, The Last Man. The first one was 1949, second one 1973. Patrick Curry, Redefining Community Towards an Ecological Republicanism, 2000. Okay, so those three specific references at this point are very strategic on my part. Above are three important academics who predate your program and demonstrate that the faculty as a whole instead seems to favor what is called human chauvinism. Routley and Routley against the inevitability. Oh man, give me a second. No, I'm not drunk. French is my first language. Inevitability. I don't know why I want to say this fast. Inevitability. Ooh, I got to practice that one. Routley and Routley against the inevitability of chauvinism. Even chauvinism, I rarely actually write it the right way without spell check correcting me as a word. 1979. Okay, so again, by the way, these people like Aldo Leopold was mentioned in the first course, 600 of this Muslim program, okay? So a lot of teachers have heard about this. They've mentioned it, but not applying academia, because let's say it's not going to advance your career as much. Okay, so I'm at page 4. I'm just going to do page 4, and that'll be it for today, because there's some freaking delicious cherry jello right here. My sense of humor and my singing, by the way, allows me to do other things than crying with the state of the world because of you people primates. I recall discussions with teachers and classmates about how sustainability was the hijacked feel-good concept of the day. They said this. A lot of teachers said that sustainability was a new word. It's being thrown around. They're doing it. They're doing it. They don't see the incongruence. They couldn't even see it, because I would have seen the smirk on their face. They really believe other people are the bad guys, these people primates, 99.7% of you. I even wrote about this conflict myself in my own program assignments. The irony is that, in spite of this apparent recognition among faculty members with whom I interacted, the perversion of the true meaning of sustainability persisted, in big part intellectual laziness. As I said, They got a PhD. They think they got nothing less else to learn. So of course they're not going to start learning about the Earth system sciences. This incongruence. So again, academia is pretty toxic if you want to learn stuff. This incongruence led to further personal struggles on my part and promoted my suffering from increased episodes of what I've come to call species alienation, because you suffer from HSD. There's a link. There's a serious correlation. Now, I've been curing myself as yours is getting worse. I'm curing myself of species alienation, but you're not curing yourselves of HSD, even though I'm trying to help. When I initially, and by the way, curing myself of species alienation in part is doing these videos. This is me. This is you. I knew the difference between right and wrong when I was a kid. I still do now. I still can access that gut feeling inside of me and make use of it, right? I'm not trying to succumb to peer pressure and become a domesticate like you for the sake of having more people at my birthday party. When I initially began this program, I was greatly encouraged when we explored innovative thinkers and communities that showed promise for pre-environmental change, leading to shifts towards a more ecocentric paradigm. However, as time went by, I became more discouraged. I found through my interactions with faculty, visiting scholars, often the friends of the teachers who had a pretty nicely paid trip to come see them, field trip hosts, and past students who just regurgitated stuff that sounded like clones of their teachers, and classmates, that my ever-present sense of aloneness increased to the point that I felt uncomfortable being in the program and even on campus. And this is like, imagine that I'm on campus and everybody thinks they're really smart and getting smarter, and everybody is in their family is proud of them, but this is a campus where everybody believes the earth is flat. And I'm there saying the earth is spherical. And can you imagine the egos of these guys and how abusive, and how hostile it would feel for me with just the nonverbal looks that they would give me, because after, let's say we Skype a teacher, like the author of a book in the first course, it's like, we Skyped the author of a book that I like. She's from Seattle. And then my classmates and teacher are criticizing her after, I don't know if the word is pessimist. What's the word? One is positive about the future, one is negative about the future. And she was actually scientifically accurate. And they didn't like that she was. So they said, well, we can discount her opinion because she's negative about things. That's super unscientific. What she says is very accurate. And you can find a lot of other people to say it. And sometimes even the people that they might admire as scholars at some point may have said these things. Doesn't mean they're acting on it, right? Academia has a lot of hypocrisy. It's like theoretical, but not practical, because it's toxic to the career to actually apply solutions in academia. So I felt alone. Every course I could see, this is not right. They know it's not right. We learned it's not right in the course before this one or that one, or in our readings. So why is everybody kind of feeling good about all the expenses in this course? And even our faculty at one point tries to buy us back, when we seem like we're downing it as a first cohort by giving us all a bursary of $1,000. Weird reason how they say they got this money to benefit the program. But anyways, maybe Harper was trying to buy us out of the sciences if we were doubting them too much and into the destroy science on the West Coast, because it's not good for the economy. I just don't like still that Harper is allowed out of jail, because of how much he attacked reality of the natural world, the real world, and how we will forever be more screwed in Canada because of that. So. And classmates, that my ever-present sense of aloneness increased to the point that I felt uncomfortable being in the program and even on campus. I found the environment distressing, as I did not feel that I belonged. An additional source of discouragement included my own faculty's and cohort's disinterest in reading and discussing my time capsule contribution. If I ever come up with a an agreement for compensation from the university. And by the way, there's so many things that are interconnected in society that a systems thinker like me knows about and can make an argument about. It's a lot more than getting money back for a fees to the university. It's so many ways that my life ended up having additional hardships and victimizations from either that or other things that separately you would think, oh, the problem's easy, but they all interconnect. And this is one. And so I don't know if I will during this particular course talk about how they're all interconnected. That'd be more of maybe doing a course on systems thinking in the social sciences. But so this time capsule is something that I decided to do in a course where I do not believe any of my other cohorts put as much time and effort into what they chose and had to prove as their projects than what I did, which was a very long and very beautifully presented academic paper, but a paper that has no actual academic journals that would publish, because it's so far from the norm. But if there's ever a resolution between me and this university, is I want that back. It went in a wooden box, and we put our projects in it. And mine was time capsule version 1.0, written in a very beautiful little format, colored paper, rolled inside a cup that says, "I love Gaia." And I remember the only thing at the time that a teacher said during the celebration of this time capsule idea is, "Oh, what a cool cup," and didn't at all read what I sent the teacher as my time capsule. I had to, again, force my first thesis supervisor to read it. And she said, "Well, can you give me feedback?" "Well, it's interesting. Interesting." That's the only thing she said. I don't know what she understood or didn't understand about it. Anyways, if you're an expert of sustainability, you probably would have had more feedback than that, and I found it fascinating. Anyways, I did, however, experience a temporary elevation of spirits when our visiting scholar, Dr. Tobias Luth, I was happy with him, but again, a victim of the world of academia, he is most likely, and not going to do the right thing when academic celebrity status, is something that he would easily be corrupted by, I believe, based on his, But he still had the potential to teach a lot of my faculty a lot of things, In the absence of our instructor, this visiting scholar was lecturing. And I'm at the end of the page, so I'll finish here for today and get back to that, more or less in 2 weeks, half a month, I mean, I could do it whatever way I want. It's not like you guys want to live in reality as it's crumbling around you because of your actions. So I'm almost at an hour. Did a question pop up? Don't see it. Still 0 participant, 0 thumbs up. And so I'll give you another 0. So this is you. You are the zeros of your own world, and it's pretty sad. And I'm going to eat my cherry gelatin-like dessert substance now and do some more crying with what's happening in Ukraine. So keep up the non-participation in your own self-destruction. You're kind of doing it just on cruise control, zombies. And if you think that's what being human is, but again, I know the difference between right and wrong. Good luck with that, eh?